Hey, my sugar bears, welcome back to my channel, Bougie AF. It's your host, Jay Nicole. It's where I say stay bougie on them. It's me feeding you feminism for the soul. It's my soul food offering. It's where I apply pressure to issues by being critical and logical. Now, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's get to the commentary where I can guarantee you I will be doing too much because that's just me. And like Sheree said, who's gonna check me, boo?
Hey y'all, you're tuned in to the Bougie AF channel. It's your girl Jay Nicole, where I say stay bougie on them, and I'm serving you feminism for the soul. Don't forget to check me out on them people's Instagram at OG_Bougie AF. I'm also on them people's Twitter at I'm_Bougie_AF. You can also check me out on them people's TikTok at She Bougie AF. So let's get into it. So I've decided that I'm going to do this little live video, not live, but like live meaning I have not watched this video, and this is the Breakfast Club, and these are the clips, Kwame Brown clips, and this is him talking about the Breakfast Club and the Tezalyn Figueroa versus Larry Elder. And so I'm interested in seeing what he has to say about this. Like I said, I've not seen the video. I have seen her though. In terms of not seeing the video, I don't know what he's saying, but I've seen her in this interview. I've seen her in the Vivek interview, and I'm interested to see what he has to say. I know he recently just did a video where he talked about feminism. And I just want to know, like, how that shows up in, like, different types of opinions that people form. At this point in time, when it comes to feminism, I just think a lot of you men are just talking out your ass and making shit up as you go. There was a video that I looked at, and I think it was by O'Shea Duke Jackson, and I think he was talking about Lizzo, and he was talking about feminism and how this is biting us in our asses in terms of equality, talking about Lizzo. And I still don't know what, like, and how he was trying to link this all into feminism, because he showed a clip of this white woman talking about essentially feminism is about equality, which I totally agree. I think the extra stuff in terms of like what men try to make it about is like their own personal insecurities, right? I think men find women that they don't like, that they're not attracted to, and they literally just try to label them feminists, right? With that being said, it's really weird sometimes for me as someone who knows and is okay and comfortable with identifying. The majority of women don't even identify as feminists. So when men just blankly do that, I just don't know, like, that's weird. That's weird to me, because the women that y'all are describing, even when you're talking about like the city girl culture and talking about that's like whole empowerment culture, feminist, and it's like, when have you heard feminists advocate for us being hoes, or taking our hot sizzling coochie and spreading it everywhere for $1? Like, that is so counter anything that a strong independent woman would be standing on, right? But it's just that wanting to make up shit and like just trying to label it something. And then I think at this point in time, like, people get so desperate they just try to label everything they don't like about women as feminist. So it's really weird. I think if when I'm talking to somebody who really actually do know about feminism, they're able to talk about the three waves of the feminist movements. They're able to critique it in a way that actually, if you really sit back and look at it, feminism and feminists are women who see in current times what women need in terms of equality and to progress in society. And that changes. It's not always the same. And that's why it's a little weird when you guys do this shit. There's the Susan B. Anthony's, and of course at that time it was for women's right to vote and all this other stuff. I also think it's really convenient that some of you men, or just people in general, or women who have this weird understanding of feminism, don't want to acknowledge what has been gained because of feminism, right? Like, at one point in time, like, we couldn't own houses, right? At one point in time, like opening up bank accounts, like all these things, right? That in terms of women that we didn't have the right to access to, right? Title IX, which are, sports and all these other things, right? So when I see women just like turn up their nose and like have this like disdain for it, I just know I'm sitting listening to an ignorant bitch, to be completely honest with you. Like, I literally know just not to pay you no mind, right? Because it's literally not about what you think it's about. Most feminists are married. I don't know any feminists who are talking about, don't date men. Like, what? the people that y'all are calling out, like in terms of Cynthia G and I think, all these other people, they don't even identify as feminists. Y'all sound so weird to me when you guys try to loop them in, right? I don't even know if they qualify themselves as womanists, like, right? So it's just really weird. It's just a sign that, in terms of just like a lot of times men are just uneducated about like exactly what they're talking about. I think, when you have groups like the Black Hebrew Israelites and the NOIs that have a specific messaging around like what a woman is supposed to look like, show up like, and all this other weird programming messaging and shit like that, I think it's just counter to the mindset probably of what a feminist is. And so what ends up happening is that it's, being equated with masculinity. Right. And it's sort of like, if you knew me in real life, I'm so fucking girly. Right. Like in terms of like, as someone who is a feminist, I'm not an overly aggressive person, like in like real fucking life, like with a man that I'm interested in, and catch that part, right? Like you men tend to think that all women are operating from a standpoint of trying to be chosen by you, right? Every interaction is not us flirting. It's not me liking you just because I can stand my ground and we go back and forth in conversation. That tends to be interpreted as being aggressive, right? And so that's why I wanted to talk about Tezalyn, because I do know that, her interview style could most definitely be all of those things that men like to label women in terms of aggressive, in terms of masculinity and all this other stuff. And I struggle as a woman because it's hard for me, because I never want to come too hard on women in terms of like showing up how they want to show up as they do their thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you do literally gotta give people respect and be like, that's not the way I would do it, but that's fine, right? You know what I'm saying? Like even when it comes down to Queen Wendy Williams, there was some shit that she did that I did not rock with, but I respect the fuck out of her though, right? And at the end of the day, she was herself. At the end of the day, she changed the game, right? So I gotta respect it for what it is. And you're not gonna 100% agree with people in terms of like how they do them, but who am I to put restraints on anybody's type of talent? And as much as I'm someone who does not enjoy Tezalyn's approach, and I think the reason why I don't enjoy her approach, and I won't say it's aggressive or any of those things that men use to try to label women that they don't like. I will say that because the same way that I don't like Nori when he interviews, because he cuts off people, he doesn't let them finish what they're talking about, he then starts talking about himself in situations, is the same way that I can say that I don't like Tezalyn's rudeness in terms of like being abrupt with people. Kind of snarky. I just don't like her style, right? I also don't think that she has great range, right? Because if you watch the Vivek, interview, she kept asking that man that same question about service, and it was really weird to see that this man is literally probably top tier smartest people in the country type of smart, like helped invented like 5 or 6 drugs for kids, like only in like an exceptional like person like that has achieved a lot. And just to hear someone say, well, that was for money, or what have you done for service for your community? For me, I've served in the military. Well, you didn't do that shit for free, right? Like you didn't do that shit for free. And on top of that, like there are plenty of people who's not had a long track record of service to community or not for profit, right? So I'm not quite sure like what you're standing on when you say that. Like even when you look at these politicians, a lot of people are not coming from like grassroots campaigns of just like volunteer work and building their way up as community organizers, right? And I know, Obama talked about grassroots campaigns, but he wasn't even really like that deep into, community activism, like I think some people like to think, to be completely honest. So for me, it's the range, right? So I have like real substance on reasons on why I don't like her. So I don't want, not like her, but I don't like her style. But the same reason that I feel like I, equally critique women like Angela Yee. I equally critique women like a Lauren Styles on them People's Hot 97.7, right? Like I literally make sure that there's a reason And it's not out of some catty, hating type of weird shit. It's not enjoyable for me. As you know, I usually stay away from talking about like other females and what they do, right? I think I mentioned Sherry Shepherd and Jennifer Hudson the other day because it was in context of like the conversation, but I was honest in saying it's not what I'm looking for, not what I'm interested in. I don't want fluff right now, right? So we have enough of that. And so for me, those are my reasons, right? Not no catty that's not making it ultimately about like personality and stuff like that, really trying to stand on something. And so I hope it's respected because I don't want to come across as though I'm like trying to tear another black woman or any women down, and while they're doing their thing. But if it's something I just don't like, I just gotta say I just don't like, and I'll tell you the reasons. And I'm not gonna dedicate like my platform to like dogging them, in that type of way. I cover things as they come up, in the news cycle and what's trending and what everybody's talking about. And if everybody's talking about something, I'm gonna join in on that. So. With that being said, I really wanted to hear what Kwame had to say about her in terms of talking about, her personality. I know it's going to be a whole lot about she being aggressive and all this other stuff, but I do find that men, who don't have range or can't have good or don't have range, or men that take discourse, and discourse meaning a conversation of back and forth. You standing on what I'm standing, you standing on what you standing on, I'm standing on what I'm standing on. Nobody's yelling at each other, nobody's disrespecting each other. But some men will take that as you being aggressive. I think the other day I was in a conversation and a man was like, "Oh, she's just a hard-headed one." Who the fuck are you? No, like real talk, not like who the fuck are you? Like you are a complete stranger and we are having a conversation about a specific topic and I have an opinion, you have an opinion. What about me not agreeing with you makes me hard-headed? You don't go around listening to everybody or changing your mind based off other people you don't know's opinions like that. And you are entitled to hold your position. But why would you think, as somebody who, in terms of me having a difference of opinion, that makes me hard-headed? Who are you that you think that I should just automatically listen to? That comes with like, a personal relationship. That comes with like me respecting you. That comes with like me knowing you. That comes with like me putting you at a place in my life where you're somebody I value in that type of way that I would listen to. And that just does not come because we run into each other in the fucking clubhouse room and you got a set of balls. It just doesn't come like that. Like, that's weird. And I do think a lot of black men struggle with socializing and being able to have those type of interactions. I was then told about, black men don't like to be corrected. That's not realistic. You're not living in reality. There's no way that you can inundate yourself in society that you could not want to be corrected by women. Like, that's from being in school, on jobs, all that. Women are part of society and have roles of authority, right? So we're essentially talking about black men having more problems and more issues with authority, and if women are in authority. So you have a problem with white people in authority, and you have a problem with black women in authority. So essentially you have a problem with authority. And so when we have a 6-year-old boy who don't like his teacher in then People's Virginia and shoots his teacher because he don't like her chastising him, you can't make the correlation on like what that may be about. Or I was in a clubhouse room. No, it was a clubhouse room, or was it comments I was reading on no, it was a clubhouse room. And this man was talking about his son, and his son was getting in trouble, and they figured out what it was because he pulled his son out of a woman's classroom and got him with a man teacher. And the problem was that his son had a problem with authority from a woman. You didn't help your son. You didn't help your son. Because you're going to have keep pulling him out of different classes where women may be in an authority figure. And it's a lesson that has to be taught because these young boys, especially teenagers, it starts exhibiting really bad when they become teenagers about not wanting to be told what to do by a woman. I seen a video the other day, and it was I can't even tell y'all where I seen it, but it was a video about this. I think it was on the blogs, and this black man this woman called this black man, I think he was a retired vet or something, police officer, to correct and talk to her 10-year-old son because he won't listen to her. Y'all don't see there's no correlation in not wanting to be corrected? Y'all don't see it at all? Because his mother should be able to correct him. No? No? All right, y'all. That's not realistic. And that's why we do struggle. A lot of black men do struggle in corporate America and on these job sites because they literally have resentment towards women. And that's a self issue that you have to fix. But it ain't a issue that Jackie Nicole gotta walk around and just listen to you when your niggas be wrong. I be in rooms and y'all be telling me, well, if the consensus and everybody, you should know. Are you like no? Imagine me fucking listening to a B. James and a organic. I'm sorry, y'all. Especially when you know people ain't got the range to be having certain conversations. You try to bring up my personal life and not standing on what you believe or the what's being talked about. Just letting me know that you don't have great substance and great knowledge or abilities to talk. But okay, let's get into this because I'm interested. Because like I said, I'm a Kwame fan, so I have high hopes. I hope he's not falling into these stereotypes that a lot of black men have when discussing black women. I hope it's real substance and real reasons and not because it doesn't come across because she's just not, the type of woman he would be attracted to. And that be killing me too because I don't be giving a fuck about what you attracted to. I'm not using Clubhouse as Tinder, right? Like what? Like why are you telling me or talking to me about what you're attracted to? Like help me understand that. Like I don't know who's truly behind this PTR. I'm not keeping up with you in any type of way. I have not expressed any interest with you. We ain't low-key flirting. This going back and forth about the topic of the room is not flirting to me. Please don't take that as my flirt language, okay? Like, I know it's really hard because it is a social, audio app, but that's not me flirting. I promise you, that's not me flirting. A nigga that I'm actually flirting with, I promise y'all, this is why I know people just make assumptions and just really be talking out their ass. I'm actually really shy around a nigga that I actually really like. I actually have butterflies. I actually probably have a hard time talking. Like all of that for a nigga I'm actually moved by. My loins is moved by, right? I don't show up as boisterous as this. Like, I don't know. Like, so it's weird to me, but I think it's because of your homeschooling. I really do. Your schooling. I think it's because you've never interacted with, like, I don't know. It's really weird because if you went to school with me, I showed up the same way I show up on Clubhouse. Like, oh, what we talking about? Okay, nigga, like I don't know. Y'all are weird to me. But it's not my flirt language. Thank you. I'm so fucking shy and kind of socially awkward when I'm actually really attracted to somebody. Like, I don't know. So, I don't know. I think people need to just stop assuming that they can pick up on that, like, when someone likes somebody. Like, I'm a grown-ass woman. I know how to use my words. If I'm interested, like, I don't know. I just think, no, it's just weird.
The brown boys, the brown boys, the brown boys, we the brown boys, the brown boys. We the brown boys. We're going to continue the live from last night. I hope y'all had a beautiful day. I had a long day. So I'm going to try to get through part 2. And I might even make a part 3. Yes. I might even make a part 3. But listen, let's get into this thing. Let's do it, shall we? Let me share the screen with y'all. Because this is the part that was annoying. We're right at the part where the young lady is about to start interrupting. And, we're going to look at it. It is what it is.
Why at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of black people were Democrats, as the majority of black people are Democrats now.
Not the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time?
Why he choose this picture? This is not a flattering picture of her. He picked up at the right time, at the right point in terms of this interview, because this is where we're going to start talking about range. And there's another interview that another creator that I listened to, and I may have to pull him up because he was extremely an intellectual, and he literally knew how to break down the fact that his breakdown was really interesting. I don't know. We'll see. But this is the point of where I was like, I just don't like this. This is really bad.
The Democrats at the time, the system. I'm just going to Charlamagne's point about white or black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the black family, I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions. And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing, they cheered all of this.
Right. And what I'm asking was, it white people, so I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white people in charge of the system or black people in charge of that system that helped break down the black family? It's a simple yes.
So I think she's trying to force him to go to yes or no. I think she's trying to force him just to say yes or no to if they were white. That's not winning anything. That's not gaining anything just by getting him to say that Democrats are majority white. But they get voted for in the black community by majority black folks. Majority black folks vote Democrat. This don't make no sense. That's a weak argument that she's trying to make.
Facts.
Simple question, white or black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare. The inducement was put there by Democrats, by the left.
Correct? Okay.
Most black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people.
Not voters. I said who's in charge of the system.
Well, who puts them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson white or black?
Who puts them in charge? Fine, Lyndon Johnson was white.
So she wouldn't answer who puts him in charge. So then he finally answers because he knows he's being jumped. He said, fine, Lyndon Johnson is white. But everybody was voting and siding with this white man, just like everybody voted and sided with Joe Biden. So is it the person that you put in place fault, or is it your fault for putting them in place? But let's continue.
Thank you.
Okay. But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I disagree. He did it because of...
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question. Was he white or black? Charlamagne?
And Mr. Ellie, you said you talked about...
And that's what pissed me off. I'm sorry, I'm jumping in before Kwame could say. That's what pissed me off, because that is her argument. I just got into a conversation with somebody in Clubhouse, and she did this same exact thing where yes and no, and, trying to get this consensus and trying to tie you in and try to put you in a corner in terms of like trying to lead a conversation in a certain direction. And I don't like that, right? Like, I literally left the stage because of that. I went to the audience and then they kicked me out the room because I'm not stupid. I know where you're trying to lead me into, right? And that's essentially what she did, and then try to say, oh no, that's not what I'm doing. You are, because if you essentially let it be known that you think that the welfare itself is essentially part of the problem and what broke down the black family, you're essentially trying to blame it on white people. So you're trying to get him to acknowledge the fact that, it was white people in charge of a system. And he is countering that by saying, well, you voted the men. Right? Like, you voted for them. So, like, if you feel like something or someone is not good for your community, then don't vote for them. Right? And it's tricky because we have this two-party system. Right? So it's either don't vote for them or don't vote at all. Right? And that's where we're at in 2024. Right? Because the same circumstances exist right now. This binary system, two-party system, and being forced to feel like you have to vote for Joe Biden. So what, 20 years now when we're reviewing and have a discussion about history, and we're talking about this time period of 2023, you voted for him, though. And that's why people are saying, you know what? I'd rather make a stance and say, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Because, going along and just voting for the lesser of two evils makes it seem as if though, like, you're with the programming. And so, again, there are some of us who are willing to say, I'm not with that. I'm not with that to the point that I want to send that message and I want it to show up in the polls that I'm not with that. Right? Don't know if it'll make a difference, but I won't be sitting, and having a conversation in 20 years talking about, oh, well, I had to vote You know what I mean? Like, no. So, yeah, there's points to be made.
Dang. Wow. This is how you treat your guests. This is how you treat a presidential candidate. No, I was just asking you a simple question. Charlemagne,
Yep,
like, nigga, you
abrupt.
done. You dismissed. I'm done talking to you. Charlemagne.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. Ooh, that was aggressive, honey. No, ooh. Jesus.
He used the aggressive word. Oh, is that aggressive? He's linking it to, he's showing you a behavior. Is that an aggressive? Because a lot of times men just say it because they're intimidated by a woman that could speak. Is that aggressive? I, yes, that's aggressive because that's rude, right? He's a guest, and that's rude. So yes, that is aggressive. You literally dismissed him and tried to change. Wouldn't give him a chance to elaborate his thoughts. So yes, that's an aggressive interviewer. You know, not because she's a woman. He didn't do that. So I'm happy that didn't come out. But if it was a man who did the same thing, I would label that aggressive. So yep, that's aggressive.
Ooh, let's keep going. Let's hear it again first. And by the way, this man is like 70 or 71. Look at the way this woman is going to talk to a man that's probably, if not double her age, close to double her age. This is how she's talking to him. And all he was trying to do was make his point, just like she was making her point. Her point was, what color are the Democrats majority? They're majority white. But what do we do as a whole, as the black community? Most of us vote Democrat. So you are empowering these white people. So you have to shoulder some of the blame.
Facts.
But if your argument is that
Maybe that'll help.
fine, Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay. But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I disagree. He did it because of
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question. Was he white or black? Charlemagne?
And Mr. L, you said you talked about the smash and grabs, right? And I find that interesting because when you see the mass shootings that happen, majority of those people are white males. What do you think about that?
Actually, if you look at the percentage of whites in America, which is 60%.
I'm so tired of people using that shit.
I agree.
I'm so tired of people using this whole white boy terminology for mass shooters.
Facts.
Just because they don't label what goes on in the hood as mass shootings.
When it is.
Man, it'd be 3-4 Negroes getting shot every day, B. 3 or more people is a mass shooting.
I said this in one of my videos.
Let me Google. What's the criteria for mass shootings? Because if there's a criteria for mass shootings, they must be only calculating them by deaths or something. Because I know we got mass shootings in the hood, Jack. They come by and spray up the whole damn block. Mm-hmm. And now they got switches. New York, LA, all these states.
And I also will go this far to say this is why I don't like to talk about, like, as black people. Like, I think the conversation around gun control is, like, kind of irrelevant for us, only because the violence that we're seeing that affects our community is not illegal gun purchasing, right? I don't think this country can move forward with having the Second Amendment. And I am someone that would defend it, but I literally can't defend it with what we're seeing in our society right now, right? Because I think the problem is guns. Illegal guns, and more of the problem is the illegal guns, in which you see the violence within the black communities, right? And so when you have this conversation the way that they're trying to talk about mass shooting, it's like a way of trying to avoid having that other conversation that says the majority of the violence within your communities is illegally being done with illegal guns. We have no conversation for the mass shooting. You know what I mean? Like, that's not our thing. That's not what is affecting our community. So That's a little weird. And Charlamagne wants to just have this and bring this up so that way it could, be framed as just being a white issue, right? Because he knows mass shootings, the way it's used in media nowadays, is directly linked to the white community. And when you're talking about the Second Amendment, well, you're not talking about illegal guns. So
You don't call what they doing in the hood a mass shooting? This shit sad. Three people, three or more. Yeah, man, it's 3 or more niggas getting shot every day. They don't walk through the hood and say that's a mass shooting. That's a mass shooting because it's designed that way. In my opinion, they don't want to classify what we do as that so they can keep railing off that bullshit statistic so they can keep pumping racism in your face and not dealing with the numbers that's actually affecting the black community.
Yep. All right, y'all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and insert my video I did on TikTok at this point because I think it's just really relevant. Just see that I did record this on July 9th where I talked about mass shootings and the difference of how it's categorized and used in the media. So I thought it was extremely important to insert this at this point, and then the video will pick up with me continuing to review Kwame's video.
Jane Nicole, Miss Bougie AF. So listen, so this is a little off the cuff moment that I, thoughts and opinions that I wanted to share with you as I, just want to throw some things out there to give you something to think about, right? So with that being said, y'all know we just celebrated 4th of July. And as you know, it was not a good 4th of July in terms of like what we've seen in terms of like the violence that happened in cities like Philadelphia and Baltimore, right? So there was several events where people, 3, 4, like even up to like 20 people got shot, right? And this stood out to me because, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because I was really shocked when I tuned into media and the news and seeing the coverage and seeing seeing the news and see journalists refer to the shootings that happen that we see on a regular basis in the hood as mass shootings. And I said, oh, that's different, right? So that's different. And I know what you're saying. What do you mean that's different? Because mass shootings are shootings of, groups of people, 3 or more people, right? So with that being said, I was like, wait. Well, a minute though. We have this happening in our hoods every weekend, right? We have a problem with violence in our communities, right? So I found it really interesting because I know when I tune into the news historically, we've always seen them refer to mass shootings as the shootings that we've seen happen in in Connecticut, that we've seen happen in Florida, that we see happen at Walmarts, that we see happen at churches, that we see happen at universities where people legally buy their guns. We always seen them refer to them as mass shootings. So when they switched it up on me, I'm like, damn, is this progression? Is this something that they want to cover our stories as much and pay attention to what's happening to us in the hood? And that's when I was like, it's fucking America, girl. You better come back to reality. And coming back to reality, I had to realize that this is an election year we're heading into. With that being said, Kamala and Biden has to find something to run in. She got to pull out the Chucks and the Pearls, and they has to start talking about decreasing the violence and taking the guns off the streets and stuff like that. And so you're going to see them try to use these mass shootings that happened every weekend in our hoods as something to run on. It says as though there's something that they're going to be working on, right? In this country, we have a problem with guns, right? I don't think that we can move forward with keeping the Second Amendment, but with that being said, we're still a minority vote, right? So I don't want us to get distracted with what's going to come out in terms of them talking about anti-gun laws and stuff like that. Stay on course. It's reparations over everything until they figure out and want to give up their guns. Because I sit and listen to white people talk about loving the Second Amendment. They don't want to give it up. So with that being said, be woke, stay woke to how they want to use you for their own personal agendas, and it's really not about you. Illegal guns are illegal guns. That's going to continue, right? So with that being said, peace out.
Exactly. They don't classify ours as mass shooting. Motherfucker come through in the hood. They call it a drive-by, motherfucker, for a reason. They come drive-by, spray everybody up, hit 3, 4 motherfuckers, and the people just say they shot up the neighborhood. 7 people got hit. They don't say mass shooting in Compton. 7 people got hit. 2 babies got killed. They don't say mass shooting in Chicago. 14 people died over the weekend. 3 of them got hit at one time. They don't never say that. They just say the shooting.
Percentage of mass shooters is under that. Percentage of people that commit hate crime is under that. Percentage of people who are serial killers is under that. Black people are 13% of the population. We commit a great percentage compared to that
No,
of
you
mass
specifically
shootings.
talked about the smash and grabs, though. So I was saying, since you're using that as an example, I'm saying, well, what about the mass shooters that are usually white males?
One more time, they are usually white males because 60% of the country is white. However, they underrepresent in terms of the number of mass shootings. About 50% or so of the mass shootings in this country are committed by white people, even though white people are 60% of the population. They underrepresent. We overrepresent when it comes to hate crime.
Oh, I got to go back and see what he just said. I missed that part. He said,
Basically, Charlemagne the God, Larry Elder has an understanding of statistics of like how that works, right? And so where he says that we overly show up, it's sort of like, and I struggle with explaining this. White people make up 60%, right, of the population. When you start to look at their crime and like, in terms of mass shooting, right? And you start to say like, what is the percentage, what's the percentage of white people committing these crimes? And it says 20% of the, how can I explain it? There's 2,000 white people. And let's say we started talking about the violent crimes that they are responsible for. And let's say these are just numbers I'm making up. 200,000 white people in this country. Let's just say those were the numbers. And we start talking about how many of those 200,000 people are committing crimes. And we're like, 20% of the people, or 20,000 of 200,000 of 200. We start to say 20,000 of 200. 200,000 people, and we say 20,000 of them are committing these violent crimes. That means that's like 20%, right? The difference is, then we say that there's 100,000 black people, right? And then we say, what is the percentage of the people? This is just throwing out numbers, and this is how I'm trying to get you to think about in terms of statistics and realizing how you overly show up, right? And then you say, what is the percentage of that 100,000 people? Remember, 100,000 meaning that less black people than white people, 200,000, right? This is how you overly show up. And you say, of that 100,000, how many of that, what is the percentage of people who are committing these violent crimes? And you say 60%. That's 60,000 people out of 100,000 people that are committing crimes. So when you start to look at numbers, you then say 60% of your people are committing violent crimes versus 20% of white people, and they have more people. So that's how you overly show up in numbers, right? Is basically what he's trying to explain to Charlemagne. I hope I did a good job. Well, I know I did. It was sloppy, but that's essentially how I kind of break it down in my head when they start talking about like statistics and how you're overly showing up. That's how you overly show up.
Hey, what? Let me go back and hold on.
One more time, they are usually white males because 60% of the country is white. However, they underrepresent in terms of the number of mass shootings. About 50% or so of the mass shootings in this country are committed by white people, even though white people are 60% of the population. They underrepresent. We overrepresent when it comes to hate crime, when it comes to mass shootings, when it comes to serial killings, when it comes to robberies, when it comes to virtually every category of violent crime.
All right, Larry, they're gonna make you stop talking soon. Yeah, they're gonna make you stop talking because you railing off too much facts. You're giving off. He's going so fast with the stats, information, and data that he's given that they can't even go against what he's saying. He's going so fast.
Range. Remember I said I didn't like because I
They can't even rebut what he's saying. They thinking of a response. So much so they come up with the lame responses. But this is sad. This is a beating. This is an intellectual beating.
Overrepresent.
So what do white people do wrong? gonna keep asking you that because I want.
Well,
And that's when you know you take the first lash. When he's railing off statistics and facts like that, what do white people do wrong? I'm gonna keep asking that. We could be a room full of blacks who they still want to bring up white people. Jesus Christ.
That's a fact.
Like,
well, it seems to me, rather than deal with what's going on, the pathology that's going on in the inner city, you want me to talk about how bad white people are,
No,
which I don't think is a particularly productive thing to do.
Well, I think there's a cause and effect, but if we can't talk about the cause, which I believe is systemic racism and white supremacy, the FBI said.
Well, I just told you, if it's systemic racism, please explain to me how it was when America really had systemic racism in 1940. 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line.
Boy, they cannot argue with these facts. 87% of blacks lived below the poverty line, and they were better and more stable then than we are now. How in the world does that make any sense?
Well, the first thing I can explain to you when you talk about systemic racism, and I think a little bit of what Martin Luther King talked about in terms of walking his people into a burning building, is that's essentially what he is actually talking about, Kwame. When you start to think about communities from the 1940s, and we were much more self-reliant, and that's why when you sit on Clubhouse, when I first got on Clubhouse, there was more rooms that talked about that were talking about, were we better off before integration? And the reason why they were talking about were we better off before integration, because we were more self-sufficient. We built community in a way that we had local doctors, we had local retail stores and all these other things, right? So we were able to service our communities and make money that way. So where now you start talking about integration, where you have to integrate into other people's systems, right? And you have to encounter discrimination, racism, and all these other things, and the wage disparity, then that's where you start to talking about, and you start to see systemic racism. So I understand the thinking of like, okay, why was it better then than now? But you also have to understand that, it's just a different time. We had stream sets, like we paid for people locally to make clothes and all this other stuff. We went to the local tailor, we went to the local, shoe guy, but he was always in our community, right? So it just shows up differently because we're all American, right? And we're in this, we're in this, we're all integrated. There's no separation to be able to say, hey, we're keeping our dollar within our community. And we were forced to keep our dollar within our community because that's all we had, right? Like, that's all we had. We went to our dentist, right? He was black, right? We went to our doctors. He was black, right? If there was someone in your neighborhood. So it just showed up differently. And I really hope that kind of explains that. So it's sort of, to me, like an apple and oranges type of comparison. And I hope people really learn to, kind of get the tools to kind of talk to it in that type of way. That's also the reason why when I'm on Clubhouse, I don't pay attention to the talking about the black dollar and its circulation within the black community, only because like when we start to look at like Asian cultures, or if you're talking about the Indian cultures and stuff like that, or we're talking about Asian and Indian cultures, and we're saying, hey, their dollar stays in their community. Well, they are a niche community within our society. And what I mean by niche, when you go to Houston, and I remember, I forgot I think it was Anthony Bourdain's, when he went to Houston, and he was talking about I think it was, I hope I'm getting it right, the Indian community, and how they had their own stores, right? How they had their own dress shops and all these other things. And this is talking about that dollar staying within their community, right? Because the owner of their stores are Indian. These are going to be things that they can only get within their community, from their community, because their community can cater to them. We don't have that set up because we're American at the end of the day. We celebrate the same holidays. We dress the certain type of way. We can use the Walmart for all of our needs. Same way white folks can use the Walmart for all of our needs. So we don't have any nicheness about us. Now you could see some nicheness in terms of like the Nigerian community or other smaller black communities, because again, if you want authentic African garments, or if you want authentic African food, you can, you're going to go to African shops to support that. But we don't have that, right? Because of integration, and because we're not a niche group, our holidays are the same holidays across the board for white and black. We eat the same way across the board in terms of Walmart going to have all of our food needs like they have all of white people food needs, right? We don't have a nicheness in terms of that way when it comes to our food. So I think, people got to step out a little bit and kind of look at it that way. And I hope that helps.
Again, this is during Jim Crow era. My father is from Athens, Georgia, grew up in Jim Crow. My mom is from Huntsville, Alabama, grew up in Jim Crow. 87% of blacks live below the poverty lines before Brown versus Board of Education. You did not find these kind of black on black crime.
But they still were living below the poverty line, though, sir.
Sorry?
You're forgetting the fact that they were still living below the poverty line. You're picking and choosing, saying this was good, but this was bad.
Okay.
The bottom line, they end between the poverty line. But let's move forward.
Well, can I just address it?
I know that just didn't happen. I know she ain't just butt in like that and that aggressively. When that's not the point. The point is they were living below the poverty line, but they were together and they are progressing better as a family unit than we are now. Did she just forget the entire conversation? These clowns laughed about hot sauce by a YouTube woman. A white YouTube, I don't know. Salute to you, Mel. I can't believe she butt in like that. A white woman, I think, okay. I cannot believe she butt in the way that she just did. Yeah, race baiting. That's all they trying to do is race bait on this show, in my opinion.
All right, so I liked it. I mean, it was interesting. It was a good review, and I think he was on point. He stuck to, calling her out for her behavior, right, at the appropriate time. So it didn't come across as if though like it was just a disdain for a certain type of woman. Because a lot of times, a lot of these men, when they do that, it's just about you just don't like that type of woman. But no, I totally agree. Like every time that she cut in and she was being rude, that was an extremely aggressive behavior that I could see in both, that I would call out in both men and women. But that's 100%. He was 100% correct, and I don't know what to say about her. I mean, she continues to be on this show, and they continue. But when the actual co-hosts, meaning DJ Envy and Charlamagne, don't have range themselves, I think they're just overly impressed with her, and I think they like her aggressiveness and that she is going to, say the things that she's saying, which aligns with them. I'll say this: if they had someone like an Angela Rye on their show, or someone like a what's her name, Simone on their show, right? Let's say Simone came up there. She would not take those talking points that Tezalyn would have, right? Neither Angela or Simone would take those talking points that Tezalyn has. And I think that's why she is on this show and she is showing up in these interviews, because they're just not widely shared talking points by those who are extremely educated and have great range and to be able to have a conversation. Now, I think Angela Rye would disagree with Larry Elder in terms of systemic racism, but I think she would disagree because of like the reasons that I outlined in terms of like the community just completely looking different because of integration, and self-reliant communities was really how Black Americans were surviving with being segregated, right? So Angela and Simone would be able to talk to those things in that type of way, and that's the difference. But they would not, their views would not align with what DJ Envy and Charlamagne believe, right? Because again, Charlemagne confuses a lot of people. I'm not sure where he stands on if he wants to be conservative, he wants to be Pan-African. Like it's just really, really, really weird. But y'all know how we do it here. We keep it bougie SF, posh SF, black SF. We keep being blessed SF and kiss, 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 kiss. Don't you forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I am out. And bye.